Beautiful. All right, everybody. Hello, aloha. Welcome to the Agents of Change Superfood Show. My name is Roxanne Ruby. I'll be your host today, and we are so blessed to have a special guest on the call today. His name is Ronnie Landis. He is a leader in the superfood movement, in the holistic health movement, and I brought him on to speak today specifically about CBD. So with this webinar, every week we are talking about different aspects of holistic health and the superfood movement, especially the platform that we're using with Purium and the products and the lifestyle that we offer as a company and as an organization on a mission to end human suffering. And we really recognize that we can learn a lot and find also great healing through plants. And so there's a lot of different aspects of that lifestyle, but something that we're really excited about right now is the use of CBD. And the benefits that it offers. And so if you guys are curious to learn more about CBD, then you've come to the right place. And we're going to open up a conversation with Ronnie Landis all about understanding what CBD is, how it interacts with the human body, what its benefits are, and a little bit more information so that you guys can feel comfortable and confident in using this in your daily lifestyle. So Ronnie, are you here?
I'm here.
Beautiful. Nice to have you here, sir. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
So great to have you here and excited for what this conversation is going to be. And I'd love to open it up by just asking you probably the question that most people ask when being introduced to CBD is, what is it? What does CBD stand for?
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, first of all, CBD stands for cannabidiol, and cannabidiol CBD is one of over 100 different cannabinoids. And cannabinoids are basically particular molecules that exist in different plants, but also exist in the body, that exist in different compartments of the body, in the brain. There's a lot that can be said about that and a lot that should be said about that. That might be beyond the scope of this call. But CBD is one of the most interesting cannabinoids that we've ever discovered in what's called pharmacopoeia. And that's just like basically nature's pharmacy, right? When you think of a pharmacy, most people in our world that, like my grandmother, for example, goes to the pharmacy still. And so she, when I was growing up with her, I would go with her to like Long's Drugs or something. And then that was my idea of the pharmacy. She'd go to the pharmacy and pick up her medication. Well, there's a different type of pharmacy, and that's the pharmacy that exists in nature. We call that nature's pharmacopoeia. And within nature's pharmacopoeia, there are compounds or medicinal molecules that exist in different types of plants, particularly in this case, the hemp and cannabis plant. And cannabinoids are a list of many, many different compounds. There's CBD1, CBD2, CBN, CBG, many, many different types of compounds that exist within this category. But CBD, particularly CBD1, CBD2, are very, very powerful for brain health. I mean, we're going to go deeper into kind of like what it's used for, but that's basically in a nutshell what CBD stands for.
Perfect. I love that you're bringing up the pharmacopoeia aspect of this. I feel like that's really what we're offering to people here is alternative to mainstream medicine and pharmaceuticals, and actually a more ancient practice of turning to plants for the benefits that they offer our body for health and longevity and really optimizing this human experience. Mm-hmm. And I look at our Purium website as an online apothecary and a resource to be able to not only feed yourself, but stock your medicine cabinet and have supplies on hand that can really deliver some incredible healing properties as well as just daily nutrition. So you mentioned what it's derived from. Most people, when we bring up cannabis, they probably automatically do think of THC. So I just want to open up also with addressing, does CBD get you high?
No, CBD does not get you high, and it might give you a natural high in the way that we would actually want it in terms of like just feeling good, feeling uplifted. That's what I mean by a natural high. just kind of a normal, natural experience of feeling good in your body. But the psychoactive component of not CBD, but of cannabis, or otherwise known as marijuana, is THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is another cannabinoid, but it's the psychoactive compound in the cannabis or marijuana plant, the flower of the overall hemp plant. And so that's a very important distinction. So CBD is not THC. And most people learning about this kind of figure this out, or if people have been in that culture, you know, the smoking culture growing up, it's quite popular in our culture. But you understand the difference, right? Like CBD is medicinal and it's therapeutic, and it has what's the word I want to use? It has a harmonizing effect on the body's system, the stress reduction system, which we'll go a little deeper into, I think, a little later. But it has no psychoactive effect.
Right. Exactly. And I also just kind of want to reiterate, like you said, like it might have that natural high. Like I feel like when I'm using it on a daily basis, I do experience like an elevated mood and just feeling more positive and kind of emotionally balanced. But it's definitely not like the stoned sensation that some of you might be familiar with. How about the types of people? So I just kind of want to bring awareness, you know, with speaking to elevated mood, you know, relieving stress, qualities like that. There's a lot of studies right now being done on CBD. It's being legalized. There's a huge movement around it. The industry is growing tremendously. And I would love to ask you, I guess, like, who are the types of people that are really like, what are the demographics of people? What are the symptoms that people are struggling with that are really finding benefit relief through utilizing CBD right now?
Really great question. Well, from my perspective, from my professional and personal observation of what most people are going through, let's just categorize it as stress reduction. But, you know, that's a longer conversation in terms of like what stress is from an inflammation perspective of the body, you know, and just a stress of life, you know, overall life stress. People are really burdened by this feeling of pressure that maybe they don't have a rhyme or reason for, they're not sure where it's coming from, or maybe they're just overwhelmed in their life. And so what ends up happening is they lose cognitive capacity. They lose the capacity for critical thinking because they're so stressed. And so they can't really kind of process the weight of life, if that makes sense. And so there's two perspectives. There's the mental health, the psychological health and emotional health perspective of people that are just dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, even like subclinical forms of depression, things of that nature, where people just feel emotionally and mentally out of balance. And then the physiological side of it is the inflammation. The inflammation is really the root of all forms of dis-ease and degeneration in the world. And so what most people that start moving towards CBD types of therapies is really to enhance, you know, like that natural high perspective, to enhance a feeling of normality and a feeling of having a natural high. Well, that is really it's really stress reduction for a lot of people. A lot of people are really just trying to feel better in their body. And so they're going towards different things. This is why a lot of people go towards pharmaceutical medications or anti-stress medications, for example, because they don't know what else to do. And so I find most people are going towards CBD. And this is also, just on a side note, this is why a lot of people are going towards marijuana, or have been going towards marijuana for so many years, because of relieving certain anxiety or pressure, stress, or different like pain in their body that they haven't been able to figure out how to move towards. And that's why CBD is so amazing, because it doesn't have that psychoactive effect. It doesn't get you stoned. It doesn't take you out of your functional lifestyle. It actually enhances it by reducing pain, reducing inflammation, reducing that pressure, that stress of life. That's that's in a nutshell. That could go a lot deeper into like, you know, more specifics, but just to answer that in kind of a broad stroke, that's what I find for most people that are looking towards CBD for the first time. There's so many other benefits, so much other research that's been borne out about how CBD supports the body as a whole. But that's really what I find that people are really searching it out for.
Awesome. That's a great answer, as always. So, I mean, there is a really broad demographic of people that are finding benefits. I think that, like Ronnie's saying, you know, stress relief is a leading one that people are seeking and utilizing CBD for. And there's also a lot of studies being done on its effects for anti-cancer, its effects in pain relief. I mean, the list goes on and on. And if you I encourage you guys to actually become inspired researchers. You know, like if you are interested in this, then start looking up information. Go online, Google it. There's graphs, there's studies, there's a lot of information online right now about CBD. So you don't need to take our word for it. You can just start doing some digging for yourself, and you'll find a lot of great resources out there. I want to go into some of the science. You had mentioned earlier the receptors that we have in our brain. I believe some in our gut. I think you mentioned endocannabinoid receptors. So how does our body work with CBD when you're ingesting it on a regular basis?
Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about CBD and how it interacts with the human biology is that you actually have CBD receptors all throughout your body. So, for example, what we know is that we have more vitamin D3 receptors, meaning what we get from the sun. We have more vitamin D3 receptors than anything in the human body. What we've come to find out is that we have almost as many CBD receptors all throughout the body as well. So that means topically on the skin, in the brain tissue, in the autonomic and central nervous system, in the gut, in what's called the enteric nervous system, which is, if you've heard about the gut-brain connection or the microbiome connection and how your gut health affects your brain health, you know, it's unbelievable, actually. This is in recent years we've discovered this. And so the endocannabinoid is an internal system, and endo meaning endogenous, exogenous means outside of you, endogenous means from within. So we have an endocannabinoid system, which if you think about, let's just think about for a quick second, certain systems in the body. We have our immune system, right? Most people are familiar with that. We have our cardiovascular system. We have our hepatic system, which is our liver, our kind of liver gallbladder system. And we have our endocrine system, which is the system in the body that governs our hormones, right? And so just like all of those systems that people are more familiar with, the nervous system, we have an endocannabinoid system as well that's been with us since the beginning of human conception, just like all these other systems. But we're finding out so much more about the human body. It's unbelievable. And so CBD actually plays a major role in the human biology, because when you start to realize that you have receptor sites in the body that are specifically tailored for these CBD molecules, that starts to cause you to think, okay, then that must mean I've had a nutrient deficiency my entire life, right? I've had a specific nutrient deficiency, that receptors in my body that help the holistic, harmonic governing system of my biology function optimally. If I've never had CBD, then that means I've had a nutrient deficiency my entire life. That's what I realized when I really started studying this research. And that's an astonishing discovery. You know, for example, there in the brain, one of the interesting things that I drew out through this research, in the brain, there's something called an anandamide receptor. And so anandamide is basically categorized as the molecule that it's like the bliss molecule. And in the Sanskrit language in Ayurveda, there's a word called ananda, which basically loosely translates to bliss or nirvana. Right? So if you study Ayurveda and the Hindu Indian culture, they have a very specific spiritual practice around reaching nirvana or reaching kind of enlightenment, right? We all kind of familiar with that in spirituality. Well, there's a molecule in the brain that's specifically focused on that I guess that experience or that phenomenon, there's some kind of connection there. And, interestingly enough, just on a side note, the only food that actually has anandamide in it is chocolate or cacao. And so there's an interesting combination between those two. And, I've been deep into chocolate research, one of my side focuses over the last however many years of doing this work. And that's where I came across that. But I didn't actually know this other piece of information that I want to share with you, which is that for a long time, people that smoke a lot of marijuana and stuff, might call them potheads or whatever, but, people that are really into that culture, there's no judgment around it. It's just, this is an observation. A lot of people, I heard for a while that they would validate that habit by saying that, oh, we have THC receptors in the brain. And I wasn't sure if that was even true. I just heard that. THC, again, is the psychoactive compound of the marijuana plant, or the cannabis plant more accurately. Marijuana is not really a technical term. But anyways, so I started studying this, and I came to find out there actually is not a THC receptor in the brain, but what there is an anandamide receptor. And when you put the DNA structure of anandamide and THC next to each other, they're only one DNA strand off from each other. They're almost identical. So what's the relevance of that? Well, then that goes to show that it's not actually THC necessarily that the brain and the nervous system is craving. It's actually CBD. The CBD fits right in and helps your body actually produce anandamide. This is a huge discovery. And that, in my opinion, is why, or maybe one of the reasons why CBD actually has such a mood altering effect. I don't want to say mind altering. It's not a mind altering compound. It's a mood altering compound, because if you don't have that anandamide, or let's say, for example, you've been burning the candle at both ends for a long time. You're not doing what you love to do in life. Maybe you're not living the life that you know that you could. And so there's this kind of restless anxiety. There's this anxiousness inside in your life. And so what ends up happening is we create adrenal fatigue. We create a bit of a burnout in the system, because maybe we're overworking. Maybe we're taking care of the family. Maybe we're burning the candle at both ends. And so that anandamide in the brain that creates that natural high, if you will, it kind of gets depleted, basically, just like your adrenal glands get depleted over time. We have to rebuild the adrenals. We have to rebuild all that chemistry that's been burnt out by stress, different forms of stress. And CBD seems to help with the expression or the rejuvenation of anandamide. I find that very fascinating. It's something not many people talk about, because who the heck studies chocolate for 10 years? You know what I mean? So it's like you stumble upon these seemingly random bits of research that all seem to connect back together like they are in this conversation.
I love it. And what comes up for me when you say that is that there's plants like cacao, like the hemp plant or the cannabis, that have the CBD that actually offer bliss to our existence, which I think is just amazing. So cool that we can have that relationship, right, with the plant world. I want to tune into the chat for a moment. I have a couple more questions for you, but I want to tune in with the chat. There's a really good question from Miranda, and I think I can sum it up, but we also will have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end of this. As I understand it, the use of CBD, like actually people, if you smoke too much weed, if you take in too much THC, CBD can actually come in and bring down the psychoactive effects, right? Or you're nodding, so I think I'm headed the right direction. So that's true. Miranda mentioned that in the comment. And then she also talked about this THC, and this I'm not so familiar with, that THC might actually improve the positive effects, the benefits of CBD. So CBD kind of neutralizes THC, but THC can support CBD. And she's wondering, I think so, Miranda, not if I'm headed the right direction, but she's wondering the difference between just the pure CBD and what the difference is between using a THC CBD oil versus using just a CBD.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I'll just answer that as briefly as I can. So, for example, THC and CBD are both naturally occurring components of the overall cannabis plant, right? It just depends on how it's cultivated, because the majority of what we call cannabis that people smoke, the majority of it is being basically it's hybridized, and it's being produced to produce a huge amount of THC that's not natural to it in nature. This is why it's becoming, for people that do that, it's becoming harder and harder to basically get high on stuff that they did 10 years ago, because now they need more and more. So they're producing more and more THC in those plants, which is not necessarily natural. And so the CBD is very low, right? It's imbalanced. The ratio is imbalanced. What ultimately you're driving at with this point is that pure CBD or pure THC is not actually totally natural. There has to be a dynamic ratio in order to get the full spectrum benefits, because when you deal with nutrition, one of the things you find out is certain things potentiate or catalyze other things. There's a synergistic effect, right? Yeah. So a lot of the CBDs on the market are CBD isolates, and they're crystalline isolates, which can have helpful benefits. However, they're not natural, and they're not going to, in my opinion, because I'm very much about what's natural and what's real, and what's derived from nature as it's presented to us with as little manipulation or manufacturing involved. It's not going to give the full spectrum benefits, because our endocannabinoid system, it requires a certain ratio. It requires, a certain natural compound for it to function optimally, if that makes sense. Yeah. So in CBD products, yeah, there is going to be a little bit of THC to catalyze or synergize the effect of CBD. But by the way, I'm not a cannabis scientist, so there's a lot of specific details that go beyond the scope of my particular knowledge in this. But the basic idea is pretty clear and obvious.
Awesome. So that's a perfect lead. And I hope, Miranda, that answered your question. And I think that now where we'll take the conversation will also give you more information that you're looking for. Let's talk about the Purium CBD. This is a product that we released just this year after years of research and finding the right sources and really putting together our specific formula. And you did mention isolate versus full spectrum. In our CBD, we have both. So can you talk a little bit about the Purium CBD and what makes it unique and special?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few things. First of all, it's grown on all organic, mineral-rich soil, mineral-rich farms. That's number one. That's key. A lot of times when you're getting these kind of things, sometimes I'm not going to say so much in the CBD industry, because that entire industry is really coming up to date. It's such a huge industry now that it's really hard to cut corners at this point, because there's so much more education and awareness of it. But when it comes to just cannabis as a category, a lot of it is being grown with pesticides and herbicides and insecticides, and you have to really know where that stuff is coming from. So what we're doing is we're growing it organically on mineral-rich soil, and then the actual product is a 1,500 milligram bottle. And so from a price point perspective, it's, to my knowledge, I've looked around at just kind of like the health food stores and what's on the market to see kind of like what the price point is for some other products that do have like a 1,500 milligram dosage. That's very rare. It's not common. There are other products that do, but they're significantly more expensive. And so the price point per dosage of CBD is the best I've ever seen on the market. It's basically 50 milligrams of CBD per day, or if you want to do it on a daily dosage. You can do more. We like to do more sometimes, but basically it's 1,500 milligrams per bottle. And then it's a CO2 extraction. It's a carbon dioxide extraction method, which basically means that it's going to ensure purity. A lot of what you see on market, whether maybe it's CBD or certain other products, a lot of what you see on the market is distilled, or it's extracted with solvents and preservatives, which is not what you want. And so this is a pure extraction method that concentrates the CBD in the hemp oil carrier. And that's another thing I think is interesting, is because the CBD is actually it's a full spectrum, it's a full spectrum of the hemp plant. So it utilizes all the parts of the hemp plant, which I think is really important, because then it adds on to that synergistic effect. The carrier, every time you deliver something, like say for example you have a tincture, it's being delivered in an alcohol medium. That's what we call it. The medium is or in herbal terms, if there's any herbalists on here, then that would be the menstruum. Not to be confused with the menstrual cycle, but in herbal terms, alchemical herbal terms, they call this the menstruum, which is basically just your medium. It's what's delivering the actual compound. You need something to deliver it into the body, so that's bioavailable for the body. That's important to know. So it's in a fat-soluble form, which is the hemp oil, and it delivers it into the blood, into the tissues, and it's very bioavailable. And the hemp oil also has its own benefits, like omega-3 fatty acids and amino acids and minerals and all these other great things that I think also add on to the beneficial side of the product.
Awesome. Yeah, it's quite incredible. Our formulator, Dave Sandoval, he is incredibly passionate about all schools of thought. He's the type of person that he's like a yes and guy. So, he looked, first and foremost, Purium means pure and premium. So, I think it's great to start with the soil, like you mentioned, Ronnie, where the plant itself is grown has so much to do with what the product ends up being. But then the fact that he also considered putting it into a carrier oil that also is delivering nutrients to the body, keeping it super basic with no strange additives or preservatives of any kind, and then delivering both the full spectrum and the isolate, right? So some people think the isolate's better. Some people think the full spectrum is better. Dave's the type of guy that goes with both. So when you're taking this, you're actually getting the benefits of both, the direct CBD and then also the full spectrum, and that's the full plant. And that, even though there's really no THC measurement, I do want to just let everybody know, and this is on the website as well, that if you are being drug tested, if people are working in jobs where they are, their job is on the line because of a potential drug test, then we actually recommend not to take this, because it can come up as THC positive in a drug test. So just kind of want to put that disclaimer out there. But we've also had some comments in the chat about children and breastfeeding mothers and pets. So for those kind of more sensitive demographics, would you say, Ronnie, that CBD is all right for those three types of beings?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like that's the thing, is that we all have this endocannabinoid system in our body, right? So for pets, it's fantastic. I know a bunch of people that feed CBD to their pets. For children in particular, I can definitely say across the board, I've seen incredible results with children, especially children that had behavioral issues. They had some kind of nervous system agitation. I've seen children on the autism spectrum, very close friends of mine that have implemented the CBD. And of course, we're not saying anything cures anything at all. We're just saying that what I've seen in my observation has been very incredible with children that couldn't even go to sleep. Their mom definitely wasn't going to sleep, and they just were kind of erratic. Like their system was agitated, and they couldn't be calm. And that brings up a whole other subject in terms of like kind of our schooling system and just kind of how we need to approach behavioral issues, how we need to approach our children instead of just kind of like labeling them with ADD or something. It actually, maybe they have a food allergy. Maybe they actually have something going on in their body that's causing an agitation, and they need something to soothe their nervous system, because it's not a behavioral issue. It's not that they're a bad kid or they have some kind of ADD thing. It's actually there's a misfiring going on in their system. And what I've seen with young children, like we're talking about like 2 and 3 is incredible. We've just seen a normalization of their behavior and where they're actually able to rest and go take naps and sleep. And then that's great because then the mom actually gets to go sleep as well for once. And so that can affect the entire family. When you think about it, that right there can change the dynamic of an entire family. And so, yes, it is totally safe. Because there's no I don't know if this is completely true, but I'm pretty sure that there's no defined LD50 of CBD. LD50 basically is a technical term, which is the lethal dose of any particular compound. So basically what they'll do in like rat studies, for example, to determine like a dosage threshold is that they'll take, and this is kind of sad, I'm not into vivisection, which is animal experimentations, but this is like the best we got for some reason, is we're not doing human experimentations. So they'll take 100 rats and then they'll give them a dosage of something until it basically kills up to 50 of them. And that's how they do toxicity tests for particular compounds, right? So there's no LD50 that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm pretty clear that there isn't, just to put that out there. You can go do some research on your own after this if you really want to look it up. I've never, ever seen an upper limit that is basically what happens is somebody just falls asleep. That's pretty much, and that's probably a really good thing for most people, because we have an epidemic of people that can't rest and can't actually go to sleep. So that's an interesting thing to know about.
Awesome. Yeah, you can't really do too much, it sounds like. And our 6 sprays, the way that our Purium CBD comes is a sublingual spray. You spray it in the mouth, 6 pumps is 50 milligrams. And then you can actually hold it in the mouth, and that blood-brain barrier is really thin, so you can let it absorb through under your tongue and in your cheek. And it's delicious. And good for everybody. I've seen super crazy dogs. We gave a really spastic dog a couple of squirts, and it became like the most docile, snuggly little puppy that ever was, which was sweet to calm it down like that. It seemed like the dog was really happy as well. I'm just tuning in with the chat still. I want to open it up for questions. I think I got through pretty much all of mine. I just wanted to also clarify, I saw in the chat, thank you, Raven, for clarifying for me. If people do get tested, they'll come up positive for cannabis, not for THC. The THC is only 0.03%, and the legal limit is 3%. Just to clarify that. And I would like to open it up if anybody has, just for maybe about 5 minutes, if anybody has some questions for Ronnie while we have him on the line, go ahead and we'll open it up for Q&A. You can take yourself off mute and feel free to bring any questions that you might have.
Can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I figured this out through a different pathway of people coming to me before drug testing for something else and wanting to figure out like, okay, I have this test coming up, and this is like back in the day, old friends from high school would start calling me up, and I basically found out that you can actually do something to completely flush your body. It's called a niacin flush. So let's say, for example, you are for something like this, it's like very inconsequential. It's such a small percentage of THC, but for people that were actually smoking marijuana, like that could be 30% THC in their bloodstream. You can do about 500 milligrams of niacin and do a niacin flush, which you can look up and just find out what that is, and do lymphatic cleansing, which is like going in an infrared sauna, for example. And you should be doing that anyways. So that will actually flush out your lymphatic system to the point where there won't be any trace of it in your body. So I just want to make that point. If anybody is like, oh my God, I have this job or I have this thing, that means I can't do this. It's like, no, it's just really about timing. You can still do it. You just need to know that there's little biological hacks that you can implement to support you. If there's like a last minute thing that just shows up, it's like, oh, okay, I need to, it's time for a niacin flush. So that just just putting it out there for whatever purposes people may find for it.
Amazing. Never know what you're going to learn on these Zooms, you guys. Really good information here. Okay, I think I saw Miranda hopping off mute. Did you have a question, Miranda, or anybody else want to?
I do.
Okay, cool.
My question is the CBD a fat soluble or is it water soluble?
The CBD technically is both. You can do it water soluble or fat soluble. This CBD is being carried in a fat soluble form.
Okay.
So this is a fat solubilized form of CBD.
And how would I know the difference when I'm purchasing or looking into getting it?
Well, there's different products. I've worked with different products. One of my friends owns another CBD company, and his is a what's the term? It's not lipospheric, not liposomal. It's hydrosomal, which means that it's hydrosomal, which basically is just like, let's just say it's a advanced water soluble CBD. So I've seen all of them. And so you can play with them if you want. I like the fat soluble myself. People have different opinions. I'm more preferential towards fat soluble because I feel like it'll get into my fat tissues more effectively. And that's where the CBD receptors are. Some people have a different opinion about that. So different products will implement a different delivery method depending on their philosophy. So that'll be pretty obvious. That's obvious by the carrier method. So if they're using an oil, for example, then that's like, okay, that's a fat soluble.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm curious about breastfeeding. Is it safe to take the CBD while breastfeeding an infant?
My immediate answer is yes. Like I said, you just for your own research, you might want to look into that question. I'm sure someone else has answered that with a bit more specificity, but my immediate answer is yes. You probably want to moderate the dosage a little bit. You might not want to do too much too fast, but there's no negative effects for the infant. One of the things with infants is that when a child is born, their nervous system is coming into formation, like they're in that formative stage of development. So their entire nervous system is being really created and formed and developed in that time, right? That's why breastfeeding is actually so important in the first place, for obvious reasons and not so obvious reasons for some people. But the CBD actually it's I almost want to say it's a catalyst, but it's a supporter of developing a healthy nervous system and giving that kind of biological information that none of us ever got, probably. None of us were ever fed CBD or breastfed mother's CBD byproduct like growing up. I know I didn't. We might have gotten something else. I don't think it's safe to smoke this stuff while you're breastfeeding, but when it comes to the CBD aspect, I believe it's absolutely safe. Do a little bit more research for yourself, but as far as any negative effects, I've never heard of anything.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd also like to chime in with that and just kind of also invite you guys. Ultimately, it's always up to you, like the mother, like with your body, with your children's body, your intuition. There's a lot of parents that are putting their kids on some pretty heavy pharmaceutical doses kind of blindly. And so, what we're offering here is an alternative with holistic healthcare. And we always encourage people to do your own research. And at the end of the day, trust your own instinct and your own intuition. And like, we're all big believers in this, that when it all comes down to it, it's your decision and it's your life. And this is just another choice that we're offering as a way to really support yourself. And I think ultimately, like, I intuitively feel like it'd be a great thing to be getting into my baby, through breast milk, and they do receive the nutrients that you take in. So at the end of the day, though, it's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, you guys. Any other questions? A couple more minutes for questions if there's some out there.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hi, Andrea.
Hey, question for you in regards to using it in more of a therapeutic with regards to cancer. Would you up the dosage or just start still at that 6?
I would up the dosage. Again, I'm not giving any medical advice, but
just
well, no, I have to say that.
Moving towards a therapeutic,
Yeah.
more than just a stress relieving.
Yeah. So a therapeutic dosage is going to be different than a maintenance or a moderate dosage.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say your best bet is to potentially double the dosage that you would normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably do that twice a day to start. And then just to kind of track the results. You know, you kind of have to be a bit of your own experimentalist, a bit of your own scientist with this kind of thing. So I'd say a safe bet is to double the dosage twice a day, and then just track the progress over a couple of days, over the course of a week. And it should be pretty noticeable, especially if there's any kind of pain, there's any kind of stress, anything like that. Those things tend to be pretty noticeable very quickly when you get the right dosage. Sometimes people underdose things, and then they wonder why it doesn't appear to be working. It's like, well, you're doing too low of a dose. You actually have to up the dose. And that's one of the things I want to point out too, just about our kind of health culture and the whole like FDA, which I won't get into my whole thing on that. But basically they're a regulation body that is regulating the dosage based on a homogenization of the population. So, right, like we have a generalization, it's a collective kind of regulation on the population of like, okay, this is how much iodine you should take, this is how much CBD you should take, this is how much whatever the thing is, everybody should take, and that's the daily recommended dosage, or how much iron or whatever. But the problem is each person is unique. And so when you homogenize the population, try to regulate and govern them that way, then just the regular person is going to look at that. And there's actually a little bit of a fear component, because then it's like, oh, I better not go above that. But the trick of it is that you probably need to go above that, especially if there is a specific deficiency. Your body has to almost get saturated in that so it can uptake it, right? But if you do too little, then it's going to take a lot longer, or the stress that your body's going through won't be able to be combated. The stress is too much for the dosage that you're taking, so you actually have to up it so it can overwhelm the stress instead of the stress overwhelming it, if that makes sense. And then from there, you kind of do like a flooding dose, a saturation dose, and then you get to a place of homeostasis, and then you can pull it back to more of a maintenance dose, and then kind of go that way.
Thank you.
And Ronnie, that actually brought up my last question that I wanted to ask you, which is, how do you recommend taking this? Do you recommend taking it more specifically, like when you feel pain, when you feel stressed, then you take the CBD? Or would you recommend taking it more as a lifestyle every day to maintain and prevent those pains and stresses from even coming up?
Right. Well, it's kind of like, do you cleanse once in a while, or do you cleanse all the time? Because we live in a toxic world, right? So it's like, so same thing, like we live in a super stressful world. So my opinion is that you take it every day. It's like taking a shower. It's like, do I only do that when I'm dirty? I hope not. It's like, I'm going to do that preferably before I go out into the world. And I'm going to do that 1 to 2, sometimes maybe 3 times a day, depending on what's going on in that day, right? So the same thing with something like CBD. CBD is an ally. The cannabis plant is a plant ally. It's part of our natural pharmacopoeia. And so it's a tool in the toolbox. Like if I have like a doctor's kit, for example, I'm going to have certain tinctures, I'm going to have certain things in there, certain supplements that I have with me all the time, and I always have with me when I travel. CBD is going to be one of those things. It's essential. And people that do it regularly, they know the difference of how they feel when they haven't been doing it versus when they are doing it. So I'd say, it's a lifestyle. It's just like anything you do for a healthy lifestyle. Doesn't mean you have to do it every day. No, you don't have to do anything every day, but most people find that they would rather do it daily than not. So that's my perspective on it. Basically, the thing is here, look, you don't want to wait till you're sick to get healthy. That's a really not unnecessary way to learn a lesson in life, right? It's like, and most of us learn through pressure and pain, right? So like, here's the thing. This is an invitation to flip that, is actually to learn through pleasure and through harmony with your body. And so if you are in a place where you're hurting, then this is something among many other things in an entire lifestyle that you can do to get yourself out of there. But don't wait until things are breaking down for you to actually put it back together. Be prophylactic. Prophylactic means preventative. Be preventative minded. Don't wait for things to fall apart. Think ahead of the curve a little bit and just make this part of your lifestyle.
Awesome.
Hey guys, I have a question. Sorry, my video is not working. Is CBD an adaptogen, or does it have adaptogenic
Yes.
properties? Cool.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, it's a powerful adaptogen. It's a very powerful adaptogen. And just for those that are listening, what's an adaptogen? An adaptogen is something, scientifically, it's something that creates a non-specific harmonization in the body. Basically, what that means is that it has a holistic adaptogenic effect on the entire body. So it regulates stress, it regulates your nervous system, it regulates the stress response, and it helps make you more adaptable, basically. So that's 100%. CBD is one of the most powerful adaptogens going.
Awesome. Well, I'm just getting the raffle all tended to right here. We're going to go ahead and do a giveaway in just a moment. But before we do the giveaway, I want to let you guys know that we're gonna pick one winner for a bottle of CBD, but everybody wins today because first of all, you learn some things, hopefully. And second of all, if you aren't already a customer, then we have $50 gift cards for each and every one of you to save $50 or 25% on your first order. And I'm hoping, I'm on my iPhone right now, so I'm hoping maybe Rob, if you can share your screen and we can show everybody the CBD website. And this, I'm just tuning in with everybody. Okay, so this is basically our online apothecary. So the way that Purium works is we have global relationships with farmers that have pure, biodynamic, mineral-rich soils in different places all over the world, depending on where our herbs and superfoods grow best. And then we have on-site dehydration facilities where we dehydrate these foods and ship them to our manufacturing company in Compton, California here. And from there, they all get blended in these giant blenders and then shipped out and distributed from there. So Purium itself is the manufacturer and the distributor. And just this year, we launched the CBD line. And so we have a website specific to our CBDs for the time being. In the chat, you'll see that there's a link where you can learn more about Purium and this whole mission of the superfoods revolution. That's the Purium Rising link that Raven just put up. Maybe Raven, you could also put the ishoppurium.com for people that might be interested to know more about the superfoods side of this, which we're actually going to be doing on next week's Superfood Show. We'll be talking about a 40-day lifestyle transformation. So if you want to know more about nutrition and holistic health and really shifting your life to include more healthy habits and superfoods, then you can learn more next Thursday, same time, same place. But since we are talking about CBDs today, Rob, are you able to screen share and pin your video to the top of this video Zoom here? And we can go to puriumcbd.com is where you can get your CBD. Again, online apothecary, amazing resource. It's really quick shipping. They take a couple days to ship. If you order more than $250 worth of product, you get free shipping. And we've got a gift card code. So if you haven't ordered yet, then you can get in touch with whoever invited you onto this webinar, and they will give you their code. and you can go online and save $50 on your first order. And that'll bring down the price of the CBD. I don't know exactly what it brings it down to, but maybe somebody can put it in the chat. But even as a consistent customer, you can keep saving 25% and or 25% off. And if you are ordering just here and there, kind of sporadically, then you'll actually still have a 15% discount on the retail price. So it's a brilliant investment in your health. You're also supporting a company that's doing amazing things in the world, and you're getting access to what we believe to definitely be one of the top quality CBDs on the market today with the most bang for your buck. So maybe we can go to puriumcbd.com. Are we able to do that, Rob? Yeah, I can see you still, but maybe we can go ahead and screen share. And I just want to show that website to you guys so you can get a little bit of a visual. And nice, Naiva. So it's $129 retail minus the $50. You end up paying $89 for 1,500 milligrams of CBD. Again, all organic, the isolate and the full spectrum. You can buy a 4-pack, which will give you even more of a discount. And from this website, then if you go ahead and, yeah, Rob, select one of those. And yeah, we'll go with the 4-pack. Then you can really save a little bit more. I believe with that, yeah, you'll get free shipping. You'll have some to share. Yeah, you're buying bulk basically with that. And when you add it to your cart, go ahead, Rob, and add it to your cart, and you'll see that when we go to checkout, there's an opportunity to put in a gift card code. And the gift card code is specific to the person who shared this opportunity with you and is sharing this lifestyle with you. And you can go to don't have an account, create an account. And right here is where you'll put in a gift card code. Rob, you can go ahead and put in your guys' gift card code, and you'll see that the price is then going to drop $50 or 25%. So when you order the 4-pack, then you're actually saving like over $100. So it's a great way to just kind of stoke out you guys as new customers to save some money on ordering your first time. And we, look forward to hearing. It looks like Rob's going to put in a little bit of information, some fake information, so that we can show you how the price changes. But I encourage you guys to go on, and there's some videos. There's a lot of great information just on the website itself. So you can go check that out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We have a lot of support within this company, within this community. We're really promoting holistic health and alternatives to the mainstream medicine field, and really ultimately creating a new normal, creating a new mainstream where people are turning first to plants and holistic practices before we go more into the chemical and pharmaceutical side of things. But this is what was the word that we learned at the beginning, Ronnie? Pharmacopoeia?
Nature's pharmacopoeia.
Nature's pharmacopoeia. So this is our pharmacopoeia. This is our access to cleaner, greener, more nutrient-dense living. And I'm going to go ahead and raffle off. We have our winner today, and I love it because she asked a question, and we always love participation. So Danielle Cleary, mama, breastfeeding mama, you are our lucky winner today, and you're going to get 1 bottle of CBD that will ship out to you today and should get to you the next few days. And I look forward to getting to hear from you. And for those of you that are interested in this and wanting to learn more, then I definitely encourage you to keep tuning back in to the Superfood Show. And each week we'll have a different guest. I will be hosting, but I'll be bringing in different speakers and specialists that can really, like Ronnie did so well today, dive into all of the wisdom that there is around this lifestyle and a plant-based, whole food, nutrient-dense way of living in harmony with ourselves and creation. So thanks you guys for tuning in. That wraps up today's Superfood Show, and we hope to see you next week. Congratulations, Danielle. I'll get in touch with you, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future and hearing your testimonials. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.